I thought I fixed it. I am sorry. Let's do it. Hold on. I'll come in again. Hello, hello, hello. Greetings, salutations. Konnichiwa, and every other form of green across this vast, marvelous multiverse. I am Matsu Quinox. This is Horace, and welcome back, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars, to the study. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, good evening, Firefly. Welcome. Sorry. Hello there, Yulian. Hello. Yes, I was muted. Yulian, congratulations on getting first Yulian 20. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, all you wonderful, marvelous scholars, wherever you are, whenever you are across this vast, marvelous omniverse. Oh boy, that was tough. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I thought I fixed the mute function. I guess for some reason it didn't. I don't know. Um anyway, how are you all doing, my dear wonderful scholars? How are you? I hope you're doing well. Hope everything's going okay. Julian 20 well. Well is good. Well. 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 Well is good. Well is good, Julian 20. Ah, how am I doing? Oh my goodness gracious, I should not have drunk that. I'm doing fine. Horace and I are doing okay. I'm still taking care of Mama Knox. She's doing okay. She's resting. She's doing all right. Well, at least I hope she's doing all right. I left Ovid actually to look after her. I can't look after her while I'm streaming, but yes, hope she should be healing up and all that. Otherwise, everything's been quiet. Really quiet. A little too quiet in places. That is troublesome, isn't it? Yulian 20. I wonder. It is worrisome in places for that. Yes. Yes. Anyway, no, everything's been okay. I do want to mention, my dear scholars, that if for whatever reason, if you're feeling down or upset or you feel alone in the world, just know the study is here for you. We are here for you. This is a safe place to come to. And we will do our best to help you out and make you feel better. Alien 20, I also wonder. That's something I would expect Skeleton to mention, but oh well. But yes. It's a reading night tonight, isn't it? Oh my goodness gracious. We haven't had a reading night since a week or two before. Um, you'll notice I don't have a little. Usually, I have a little decoration up here in the study for what we're reading, and I completely forgot, honestly. Yulian 20 K-pop time. Oh, you saw the description. No, unfortunately, we're not gonna have any K-pop here. Which I'm sure will disappoint a few people. But no. Tonight. Firefly? What are you reading? I want to know. Okay, I'm about to tell you, Firefly. Tonight, my dear marvelous scholars, we are going to be reading some folk tales from Korea. Yeah. Um, of the two, you know, big folktale groups, Korean folktales is one of those which, oddly enough, I haven't read or really used in any of my streams, I think. The other one is Australian Aborigines, but it is very, very hard for somewhat good reason to find collections of those stories. It's a very sensitive and very complicated situation with that one. But with Korean folktales, surprisingly, I did not have any in my reading reading bunch here. I do, of course, have some in the study, but going through the study and finding one when I need it is another matter entirely. But I managed to procure a book of some Korean folk tales. And so tonight we'll be reading a few. Well, more than a few. There's quite a few. So I picked some ones from the book, and even if we go through all those, we'll have plenty more to read. I'm just as excited as you are to read these. I haven't really, again, read much in the ways of Korean folk tales or folklore. Yulian 20 Demon Hunters. I mean, demons do feature in some of these stories, but we the it's not going to be related to that. I did see the movie. I did finally see the movie, and it is a good movie. If you have never seen K-pop Demon Hunters, you should go see it. It is worth a watch. So then, my dear scholars, shall we begin our reading of Tales from Korea and see what stories we can find here? Excuse me. What say you? Julian 20 says yes. All right. All right then, my dear, marvelous, wonderful scholars. Sit back, relax, have a hot or cold beverage of your liking, dim the lights if you wish, and let us begin our reading of folk tales from Korea. So, this first story actually deals with a common theme very much found in some of the Asian countries, which is foxes. I'm sure many of you have heard of fox spirits. Um, Fox spirits aren't always the same in many of these different cultures. Of course, you've all heard of kitsune, the Japanese fox spirit. Yulian 20 indeed. Korean fox spirits are a little bit different and can be depicted in a slightly different way. Yulian 20 tricky. Korean fox spirits are tricky. They are also very often, and I might be getting this wrong, but I don't believe so, can be more depicted as malevolent creatures than kitsune are. Kitsune can be malevolent, but usually they're more tricksters, while as Korean fox spirits are something to be avoided. But this story is one such tale of a fox spirit. Um, I'm going to try and pronounce these words correctly. I'm probably going to fail, but please bear with me. And this tale is called A Story of the Fox. Yi Kwai was the son of a minister. He passed his examinations and held high office. When his father was governor of Pyeongan province, Kwai was a little boy and accompanied him. The governor's first wife being dead, Kwai's stepmother was the mistress of the house. Once, when His Excellency had gone out on an inspecting tour, the yamen was left vacant, and Kwai was there with her. In the rear garden of the official quarters was a pavilion, called the Hill Pagoda, that was connected by a narrow gateway with the public hall. Frequently Kwai took one of the yamen boys with him and went there to study, and once at night when it had grown late, and the boy who accompanied him had taken his departure, the door opened suddenly, and a young woman came in. Her clothes were neat and clean, and she was very pretty. Kwai looked carefully at her, but did not recognize her. She was evidently a stranger, as there was no such person among the dancing girls of the yamen. He remained looking at her, in doubt as to who she was, while she, on the other hand, took her place in the corner of the room and said nothing. "Who are you?" he asked. She merely laughed and made no reply. He called her. She came and knelt down before him, and he took her by the hand and patted her shoulder as though he greeted her favorably. The woman smiled and pretended to enjoy it. He concluded, however, that she was not a real woman, but a goblin of some kind, or perhaps a fox, and what to do he knew not. Suddenly he decided on a plan, caught her, and swung her onto his back, and rushed out through the gate into the yamen quarters, where he shouted at the top of his voice for his stepmother and the servants to come. It was midnight, and all were asleep. No one replied, and no one came. The woman then, being on his back, bit him furiously at the nape of the neck. By this he knew that she was the fox. Unable to stand the pain of it, he loosened his grasp when she jumped to the ground, made her escape, and was seen no more. What a pity that no one came to Kwai's rescue, and so made sure of the beast. It's a very short story, and as you can tell, the fox woman was not a very nice being. Give me one moment, my dear scholars. I have to check on something. Just a second. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. I thought I heard Ovid saying something, but no, it was my imagination. Excuse me. But yes, as you can tell, the fox woman in this tale was not a very nice being. In fact, in an odd way, she didn't actually seem like a very, how do I put this? Like she was hiding her bestial self. She was very much more acting like a fox than she was acting like a human. It's very interesting. Excuse me. Our next story actually involves changing as well. This tale is entitled The Old Man Who Became a Fish. Excuse me again. Some years ago, a noted official became the magistrate of Koson County. On a certain day, a guest called on him to pay his respects. And when noon came, the magistrate had a table of food prepared for him, on which was a dish of skate soup. When the guest saw the soup, he twisted his features and refused it, saying, "Today I am fasting from meat, so beg to be excused." His face grew very pale, and tears flowed from his eyes. The magistrate thought this behavior strange, and asked him 2 or 3 times the meaning of it. When he could no longer withhold a reply, he went into all the particulars and told him the story. "Your humble servant," he said, "has in his life met with much unheard of and unhappy experience, which he has never told to a living soul. But now that your Excellency asks it of me, I cannot refrain from telling. Your servant's father was a very old man, nearly 100, when one day he was taken down with a high fever, in which his body was like a fiery furnace. Seeing the danger he was in, his children gathered about, weeping, thinking that the time of his departure had surely come. But he lived, and a few days later said to us, I am burdened with so great a heat in this sickness that I am not able to endure it longer. I would like to go out to the bank of the river that runs before the house, and see the water flowing by, and be refreshed by it. Do not disobey me now, but carry me out at once to the water's edge. We remonstrated with him, and begged him not to do so, but he grew very angry, and said, If you do not as I command, you will be the death of me. And so, seeing that there was no help for it, we bore him out, and placed him on the bank of the river. Where was I? Sorry. He, seeing the water, was greatly delighted, and said, The clear flowing water cures my sickness. A moment later he said further, I'd like to be quite alone, and rid of you all for a little. Go away into the wood and wait till I tell you to come. We again remonstrated about this, but he grew furiously angry, so that we were helpless. We feared that if we insisted, his sickness would grow worse, and so we were compelled to yield. We went a short distance away, and then turned to look, when suddenly the old father was gone from the place where he had been seated. We hurried back to see what had happened. My father had taken off his clothes and plunged into the water, which was muddied. His body was already half metamorphosed. His body was already half metamorphized into a skate. We saw its transformation in terror, and did not dare to go near him, when all at once it became changed into a great flatfish that swam and plunged and disported itself in the water with intense delight. He looked back at us as though he could hardly bear to go, but a moment later he was off, entered the deep sea, and did not again appear. On the edge of the stream where he had changed his form, we found his fingernails and a tooth. These we buried, and today as a family we all abstain from skatefish, and when we see the neighbors frying or eating it, we are overcome with disgust and horror. An interesting little tale there. It is interesting also that the change that comes over the old man is depicted in a very horrifying manner. Um, One interesting thing is, and it's not in any of these stories as I can tell, but I have read one story, one Korean folktale before in another little tiny book that I found once. I know I mentioned I didn't have any. I did have like a little tiny one before, little tiny book. Don't get any bad ideas there, my dear scholars. I can hear you laughing, Virgil. But there was another story which I had heard, which actually kind of horrified me, which involved a rat which changed into a duplicate of a human after it had eaten the human's discarded toenails. So there's this odd thing here, this very weird pattern involving, toenails, fingernails as a part, an important part of the human body containing their essence. I wonder if that is a pattern in Korean lore. I don't know. Julian 20. Ew. Yes, indeed, ew. Excuse me. All right, let's see. A lot of these stories are very short, so we'll be going through a lot of them, my dear scholars. This next story doesn't involve any sort of transformations and is entitled The Resourceful Wife. In the last year of Yon San, terrible evils were abroad among the people. Such wickedness as the world had never seen before was perpetrated, of which his majesty was the evil genius. He even gave orders to his eunuchs and underlings to bring to him any women of special beauty that they might see in the homes of the highest nobility, and whoever pleased him he used as his own. "Never mind objections," said he. "Take them by force and come." Such were his orders. No one escaped him. He even went so far as to publish abroad that Minister So and So's wife preferred him to her husband and would like to live always in the palace. It was common talk of the city, and people were dumbfounded. For that reason, all hearts forsook him, and for that reason, all hearts forsook him, and because of this, he was dethroned, and King Junjon reigned in his stead. In these days of trouble, there was a young wife of a certain minister, who was very beautiful in form and face. One day, it fell about that she was ordered into the palace. Other women, when called, would cry and behave as though their lives were forfeited. But this young woman showed not the slightest sign of fear. She dressed and went straight into the palace. Excuse me. King Yansan saw her and ordered her to come close to him. She came, and then in a sudden manner the most terrible odor imaginable was noticeable. The king held his fan before his face, turned aside, spat, and said, "Dear me, I cannot stand this one. Take her away." And so she escaped undefiled. How it came about was thus. She knew that she was likely to be called at any moment, and so had planned a ruse by which to escape. 2 slices of meat she had kept constantly on hand, decayed and foul-smelling, but always ready. She placed these under her arms as she dressed, and went into the palace, and so provided this awful and unaccountable odor. All that knew of it praised her bravery and sagacity. Very clever. Very, 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 very clever. I got a little bit confused in the mid sentence there when they were talking about the king being deposed, but I suppose that was just a little reminder of the reader's hit the for the listener the history that was about to occur. I know very little of Korean monarch history, so this is interesting. Excuse me. The next story, actually, there's a pattern here. I just realized this next story also involves court intrigue. Really kind of an interesting one. This one is entitled The Boxed Up Governor. Going through these stories so fast, we might have to find some more stories in this book. There's 53 stories, by the way, in this entire book. I picked out just a few. I didn't realize just how short and how quick we'd be going through them. So we'll have a few to keep looking for them. Now where was I? Ah, yes, the boxed up governor. A certain literary official was at one time governor of the city of Kyonju. Yulian 20 party time. What? What do you mean? What party? I don't know about any party. Is there a party being planned somewhere? Yulian 20 books. Oh, book. Yeah, yes, we can have a book party. Excuse me. Pardon me. Where was I? Oh, yes. A certain literary official was at one time governor of the city of Kyonju. Whenever he visited the mayor of the place, it was his custom, on seeing dancing girls, to tap them on the head with his pipe and say, "These girls are devils, ogres, goblins. How can you tolerate them in your presence?" Naturally, those who heard this disliked him, and the mayor himself detested his behavior and manners. He sent a secret message to the dancing girls saying, "If any of you, by any means whatever, can deceive this governor and put him to shame, I'll reward you richly." Among them there was one girl, a mere child, who said that she could. The governor resided in the quarter of the city where the Confucian temple was, and he had but one servant with him, a young lad. The dancing girl who had decided to ensnare him, in the dress of a common woman of the town, used frequently to go by the main gateway of the temple, and in going would call the governor's boy to her. Sometimes she showed her profile, and sometimes she showed her whole form as she stood in the gateway. Oh my goodness gracious. I can guess what that means. The boy would go out to her, and she would speak to him for a moment or two, then go. Yeah, speak to him. She came sometimes once a day, sometimes twice, and this she kept up for a long time. The governor at last inquired of the boy as to who this woman was that came so frequently to call him. "She is my sister," said the boy. "Her husband went away on a peddling round a year or so ago, and has not yet returned. Consequently, she has no one else to help her, so she frequently calls and confers with me." Using one evening, when the boy had gone to eat his meal, and the governor was alone, the woman came to the main gateway and called for the boy. His Excellency answered for him and invited her in. When she came, she blushed and appeared very diffident, standing modestly aside. The governor said, "My boy is absent just now, but I want to smoke. Go and get a light for my pipe, will you, please?" She brought the light, and then he said, "Sit down, too, and smoke a little, won't you?" She replied, "How could I dare do such a thing?" He said, "There is no one else here now. Never mind." There being no help for it, she did as he bade her, and smoked a little. He felt his heart suddenly inclined in her favor, and he said, "I have seen many beautiful women, but I surely think that you are the prettiest of them all." Once seen you, I have quite forgotten how to eat or sleep. Could you not come to me to live here? I am quite alone, and no one will know it." She pretended to be greatly scandalized. "Your Excellency is a noble, and I am a low-class woman. How can you think of such a thing? Do you mean it as a joke?" He replied, "I mean it truly. No joke at all." He swore an oath, saying, "Really, I mean it, every word." She then said, "Since you speak so, I am really very grateful, and shall come." Said he, "Meeting you thus is wonderful indeed." She went on to say, "There is another matter, however, that I wish to call to your attention. I understand that where your Excellency is now staying is a very sacred place, and that according to ancient law, men were forbidden to have women here. Is that true?" The governor clapped her shoulder and said, "Well, really now, how is it that you know of this? You are right. What shall we do about it?" She made answer, "If you'll depend on me, I'll arrange a plan. My home is nearby, and I am also alone. So if you come quietly at night to me, we can meet and no one will know. I shall send a felt hat by the boy, and you can wear that for disguise. With this commoner's felt hat on, no one will know you." I'm seeing a little bit of a trick here. The governor was greatly delighted and said, "How is it that you can plan so wonderfully? I shall do as you suggest. Now you be sure to be on hand." He repeated this 2 or 3 times. The woman went and entered the house indicated. When evening came, she sent the hat by the boy. The governor arrived as agreed, and she received him, lit the lamp, and brought him refreshments and drink. They talked and drank together, and he called her to come to him. Excuse me. The woman hesitated for a moment, when suddenly there was a call heard from the outside, and a great disturbance took place. She bent her head to listen, and gave a cry of alarm, saying, "That's the voice of my husband who has come. I was unfortunate, and so had this miserable wretch Give me 1 second. Sorry, I'm trying to get this word right. Apportionated. And so had this miserable wretch apportionated to my lot. He is the most despicable among mortals. For murder and arson he has no equal. 3 years ago he left me and I took another husband, and we've had nothing to do with each other ever since. I can't imagine why he should come now. He is evidently very drunk too, from the sound of his voice. Your Excellency has really fallen into a terrible plight. What shall I do?" The woman went out then and answered, saying, "Who comes thus at midnight to make such a disturbance?" The voice replied, "Don't you know my voice? Why don't you open the door?" She answered, "Are you not Cholo, Brass Tiger? And have we not separated for good years ago? Why have you come? Oh, thank you for the hydrate, Yumiko. Welcome." In fact, let me hydrate with something else. Give me a second. We are reading Folktales from Korea. This story is called The Boxed Up Governor. Welcome. Have a seat, Yumiko. The voice from without answered back. Excuse. Your leaving me and taking another man has always been a matter of deepest resentment on my part. I have something special to say to you. And he pounded the door open and came thundering in. The woman rushed back into the room, saying, Your Excellency must escape in some way or other. In such a little thatched hut, there was no place possible for concealment, but an empty rice box only. Please get into this, said she, and she lifted the lid and hurried him in. The governor, in his haste and dishabille, was bundled into the box. He then heard from within this fellow come into the room and quarrel with his wife. She said, We have been separated 3 years already. What reason have you to come now and make such a disturbance? Said he, You cast me off and took another man, therefore I have come for the clothes that I left and the other things that belonged to me. Then she threw out his belongings to him, but he said, pointing to the box, That's mine. She replied, That's not yours. I bought that myself with 2 rolls of silk goods. But, said he, one of those rolls I gave you, and I'm not going to let you have it. Even though you did give it, do you mean to say that for 1 roll of silk you will carry away this box? I'll not consent to it. Thus they quarreled and contradicted each other. If you don't give me the box, said he, I'll enter a suit against you at the mayor's. A little later the day dawned, and so he had the box carried off to the mayor's office to have the case decided by law, while the woman followed. When they entered the court, already the mayor was seated in the judgment place, and here they presented their case concerning the box. The mayor, after hearing, decided thus: Since you each have a half share in its purchase, there is nothing for me to do but to divide it between you. Bring me a saw, said he. The servants brought the saw and began on the box, when suddenly from the inner regions came forth a cry, Save me! Oh, save me! The mayor, in pretended astonishment, said, Why, there's a man's voice from the inside, and ordered that it should be opened. The servants managed to find the key, and at last the lid came back, and from the inner quarters there came forth a half-dressed man. On seeing him, the whole place was put into convulsions of laughter, for it was none other than the governor. How is it that your Excellency finds yourself in this box in this unaccountable way? Asked the mayor. Please come out. The governor, huddling himself together as well as he could, climbed on to the open veranda. He held his head down and nearly died for shame. The mayor, splitting his sides with laughter, ordered clothes to be brought, and the first thing that came was a woman's green dress coat. The governor hastily turned it inside out, slipped it on, and made a dash for his quarters in the Confucian Temple. That day he left the place never to return. And even to the present time, in Kyonju, they laugh and tell the story of the boxed-up governor. Oh well. You know, the one thing that I'm kind of curious in the story here is that, was the whole bit with the husband real? My gut says that it wasn't. That she set it all up, 'Cause she had to, because there was no way she would know to know that unless she had set up the whole thing. So she must have paid someone to act the part of the husband. Union 20 set up. Yeah, yeah, that's what I think. That's what I feel. That she set up the whole business with the husband. It's the only way that would work. So the next story we're going to tell is actually once again back to the supernatural. This tale is entitled The Snake's Revenge. There lived in the ancient days an archer, whose home was near the water gate of Seoul. He was a man of great strength and famous for his valor. Watergate has reference to a hole under the city wall, by which the waters of the Grand Canal find their exit. In it are iron pickets to prevent people's entering or departing by that way. On a certain afternoon, when this military officer was taking a walk, a great snake was seen making its way by means of the Watergate. The snake's head had already passed between the bars, but its body, being larger, could not get through. So there it was held fast. The archer drew an arrow, and feeing it into the string shot the snake in the head. Its head being fatally injured, the creature died. The archer then drew it out, pounded it into a pulp, and left it. 1 second. Also, that's kind of cruel just to kill a snake like that. Oh my goodness gracious. What is going on here? That was weird. Okay. But yeah, just he killed the snake, which was just slithering out from a hole, and then beat it into pulp and just left its corpse there. That is horrifying. That is horrible. Why? Using. A little time later, the man's wife conceived and bore a son. From the first, the child was afraid of its father, and when he saw him, the child used to cry and seem greatly frightened. As he grew, he hated the sight of its father more and more. The man became suspicious of this, and so instead of loving his son, he grew to dislike him. On a certain day, when there were just the two of them in the room, the officer lay down to have a midday siesta, covering his face with his sleeve, but all the while keeping his eye on the boy to see what he would do. The child glared at his father, and thinking him asleep, got a knife and made a thrust at him. Julian 20, I have a bad feeling. Oh, yeah. The man jumped, grabbed the knife, and then with a club gave the boy a blow that left him dead on the spot. He pounded him into a pulp, left him, and went away. This is a horrible man. The mother, however, in tears, covered the little form with a quilt and prepared for his burial. In a little, the quilt began to move, and she in alarm raised it to see what had happened, when lo! Beneath it the child was gone. and there lay coiled a huge snake instead. The mother jumped back in fear, left the room, and did not again enter. When evening came, the husband returned, and heard the dreadful story from his wife. He went in and looked, and now all had metamorphosed into a huge snake. On the head of it was the scar mark of the arrow that he had shot. He said to the snake, "You and I were originally not enemies. I therefore did wrong in shooting you as I did. But your intention to take revenge through becoming my son was a horrible deed. Such a thing as this is proof that my suspicions of you were right and just. You became my son in order to kill me, your father. Why, therefore, should I not in my turn kill you? If you attempt it again, it will certainly end in my taking your life. You have already had your revenge, and have once more transmigrated into your original shape. Let us drop the past and be friends from now on. What do you say?" He repeated this over and urged his proposals, while the snake with bowed head seemed to listen intently. He then opened the door and said, "Now you may go as you please." The snake then departed, making straight for the water gate, and passed out between the bars. It did not appear again. That's such an odd story, isn't it? Because I think what the guy is saying, what the hunter is saying, is that, yeah, I messed up. I should not have shot you, which he shouldn't, because you were just a creature, just passing along. You were doing nothing. But you did more wrong by trying to get revenge on me by taking the form of my son. So therefore, I had every right to kill you in the first place because it proves that you were rotten and I was taking precautions. It's a really weird justification of such a behavior. And there is a note at the end of this story that tries to explain it, but even that is just kind of very, very strange. Basically, basically explaining this little note, which I'm not really going to read, that that it's wrong to try and take revenge if you're innocent and killed, because by not taking revenge you prove that you are innocent, but if you try and take revenge you're basically saying that you were guilty and therefore you deserve your punishment. It's a really weird thing. Basically it's trying to argue that if you hold a grudge you're a terrible person and therefore you deserve whatever fate marks you. It's really odd. I'm supposing it's a very cultural thing there, but it is a kind of an odd argument to make. Kind of trying to justify an action after the fact. Okay. This next one is the last story I had originally chosen, but we're going to keep looking for stories to do. It's a very, very short story. This one is entitled The Old Man in the Dream. Union 20, yes, please. I already said that I'm going to be reading more stories, so there. Quan Jai was a man high in rank and well advanced in years. He was, however, much given to sport and various kinds of pleasure. Yumiko, oh, hello there, Yumiko. Let's do this, yes. One night, he had a dream, when an old man came to him who bowed low and in tears said, "Sir, Minister Han wishes to kill off me and all my posterity. Please save me, won't you?" Quan asked, "How can I save you?" The old man replied, "Han will assuredly ask your excellency to help him. Desist from it, please, for if you do, Han will give it up, and I shall live and all mine." A little later there came a rap at the door, when Quan awakened and asked, "Who is there?" It was Han, who that day had planned an excursion to Lotus Lake to fish for turtles, and now had come specially to invite Quan to go with him. Then Quan knew that the turtle had appeared to him in a dream in the form of an old man, so he declined, saying he was ill. I learned later that Han also did not go. Very short tale, that. Very short tale. One of these stories I think I have heard before. Give me one second, my dear scholars. Oh yes, here's another very short story. And this one I've actually heard. I think I saw it in a collection once. This one is entitled The Mysterious Hoi Tree. I might have read this once for a stream, I don't remember. Prince Passan's house was situated just inside of the Great East Gate, and before it was a large hoi tree. On a certain night, the prince's son-in-law was passing by the roadway that led in front of the archer's pavilion. There he saw a great company of bowmen, more than he could number, all shooting together at the target. A moment later he saw them practicing riding, some throwing spears, some hurling bowls, some shooting from horseback, so that the road in front of the pavilion was blocked against all comers. Some shouted as he came by, "Look at that impudent rascal! He attempts to ride by without dismounting." They caught him and beat him, paying no attention to his cries for mercy and having no pity for the pain he suffered, till one tall fellow came out of their serried ranks and said in an angry voice to the crowd, "He is my master. Why do you treat him so?" He undid his bonds, took him by the arm, and led him home. When the son-in-law reached the gate he looked back, and saw the man walk under the hoi tree and disappear. He then learned, too, that all the crowd of archers were spirits and not men, and that the tall one who had befriended him was a spirit too, and that he had come forth from that particular hoi tree. You know, you really have to be careful in places like that. I mean, you never know if you're going to run into spirits at any point. Let me see. This is an interesting one. Not sure what to make of this story, so we'll read it and we'll see what we make of it. This story is entitled The Geomancer. There was a geomancer once, Yi Yui-sin, who in seeking out a special mountain vein started with the Dragon Ridge in North Ham-Kyon Province and traced it as far as Pine Mountain in Yangju County, where it stopped in a beautifully rounded end, forming a perfect site for burial. After wandering all day in the hills, Yi's hungry spirit cried out for food. He saw beneath the hill a small house, to which he went, and rapping at the door asked for something to eat. A mourner recently bereaved came out in a respectful and kindly way, and gave him a dish of white gruel. Yi, after he had eaten, asked what time the friend had become a mourner, and if he had already passed the funeral. The owner answered, I am just now entering upon full mourning, but we have not yet arranged for the funeral. He spoke in a sad and disheartened way. Yi felt sorry for him and asked the reason. I wonder if I wonder if it's because you are poor that you have not yet made the necessary arrangements, or perhaps you have not yet found a suitable site. I am an expert in reading the hills, and I'll tell you of a site. Would you care to see it? The mourner thanked him most gratefully and said, I'll be delighted to know of it. Yi then showed him the end of the great vein that he had just discovered, also the spot for the grave and how to place its compass points. After possessing this site, said he, you will be greatly enriched, but in 10 years you will have cause to arrange for another site. When that comes to pass, please call me, won't you? In calling for me, just ask for Yi Soon Pang, who lives in West School Ward, Seoul. The mourner did as directed, and as the geomancer had foretold, all his affairs prospered. He built a large tiled house and ornamented the grave with great stones as a prosperous and high-minded country gentleman should do. After 10 years, a guest called one day, and saluting him, asked, Is that grave yonder beyond the stream yours? The master answered, It is mine. Then the stranger said, That is a famous sight, but 10 years have passed since you have come into possession of it, and the luck is gone. Why do you not make a change? If you wait too long, you will rue it, and may meet with great disaster. The owner, hearing this, thought of Yi the geomancer, and what he had said years before. Remembering that, he asked the stranger to remain as his guest while he went next day to Seoul to look up Yi in West School Ward. He found him and told him why he had come. Yi said, I already knew of this. So the two journeyed together to the inquirer's home. When there, they went with the guest up the hill. Yi asked of the guest, Why did you tell the master to change the site? The guest replied, This hill is a kneeling pheasant formation. If the pheasant kneels too long, it cannot endure it, so that within a limited time it must fly. 10 years is the time, that's why I spoke. He laughed and said, Your idea is only a partial view. You have thought of only one thing. There are other conditions that enter. Then he showed the peak to the rear and said, Yonder is Dog Hill, and then one below. Which, said he, is Falcon Hill, and then the stream in front. Which, said he, is Cat River. This is the whole group, the dog behind, the falcon just above, and the cat in front. How then can the pheasant fly? It dares not. The guest replied, Teacher, surely your eyes are enlightened, and see further than those of ordinary men. From that day forth, the Yis of Pine Hill became a great and noted family. That was actually kind of a neat story. I mean, of course, if you've played some fantasy games, you've heard of the term geomancer. But I was not actually aware that it was an actual thing. It's quite interesting. I suppose, as it's implying, geomancers have the ability to read landscapes and landmarks in a manner to tell fortunes or to tell the future, or to somehow No luck. Okay, let me see. Hmm. So this story, I'm going by the title for this next one. This one is entitled "The Plucky Maiden." The Plucky Maiden. Sorry, I have a little bit of caffeine in me, so it's making me a little bit difficult to talk. The Plucky Maiden. Let's see what this is all about. Han Myeon-hee was a renowned minister of the reign of Sejong. Oh, thank you for the hydrate, Yumiko. Drinking regular water for that. Han Myeon-hee was a renowned minister of the reign of Sejong. The king appreciated and enjoyed him greatly, and there was no one of the court who could surpass him for influence and royal favor. Confident in his position, Han did as he pleased, wielding absolute power. At that time, like grass before the wind, the world bowed at his coming. No one dared utter a word of remonstrance. Sounds like a rough guy. Oh, excuse me. Yumiko, have some water with that caffeine. I just had some water. Thank you, Yumiko. Very thoughtful. When Han went as governor to Pyongan province, he did all manner of lawless things. Anyone daring to cross his wishes in the least was dealt with by torture and death. The whole province feared him as they would a tiger. Oh, goodness gracious. On a certain day, Governor Han, hearing that the deputy prefect of Sonchon had a very beautiful daughter, called the deputy and said, I hear that you have a very beautiful daughter, whom I would like to make my concubine. When I am on my official rounds shortly, I shall expect to stop at your town and take her. So be ready for me. The deputy, alarmed, said, How can your excellency say that your servant's contemptible daughter is beautiful? Someone has reported her wrongly. But since you so command, how can I do but accede gladly? So he bowed, said his farewell, and went home. On his return, his family noticed that his face was clouded with anxiety, and the daughter asked why it was. Did the governor call you, father? Asked she, and why are you so anxious? Tell me, please. At first, fearing that she would be disturbed, he did not reply. But her repeated questions forced him, so that he said, I am in trouble on your account, and then told of how the governor wanted her for his concubine. If I had refused, I would have been killed, so I yielded. But a gentleman's daughter being made a concubine is a disgrace unheard of. The daughter made light of it and laughed. Why did you not think of it out? That why did you not think it out better than that, father? Why should a grown man lose his life for the sake of a girl? Let the daughter go. By losing one daughter and saving your life, you surely do better than saving your daughter and losing your life. One can easily see where the greater advantage lies. A daughter does not count. Give her over, that's all. Oh my goodness gracious, what is this woman saying? Don't for a moment think otherwise. Just put away your distress and anxiety. We women, every one of us, are under the ban, and such things are decreed by fate. Oh my goodness, this is one of those stories, isn't it? I shall accept without any opposition, so please have no anxiety. It is settled now, and you, father, must yield and follow. If you do so, all will be well. I I do not condone what she's saying. I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I do not condone this. I do not condone this at all. The father sighed and said in reply, "Since you seem so willing, my mind is somewhat relieved." But from this time on the whole house was in distress. The girl alone seemed perfectly unmoved, not showing the slightest sign of fear. She laughed as usual, her light and happy laugh, and her actions seemed wonderfully free. In a little, the governor reached Sanchon on his rounds. He then called the deputy and said, "Make ready your daughter for tomorrow and all the things needed." The deputy came home and made preparations for the so-called wedding. The daughter said, "This is not a real wedding. It is only the taking of a concubine, but still make everything ready in the way of refreshments and ceremony as for a real marriage." So the father did as she requested. On the day following, the governor came to the house of the deputy. He was not dressed in his official robes, but came simply in the dress and hat of a commoner. When he went into the inner quarters, he met the daughter. She stood, she stood straight before him. Her two hands were lifted in ceremonial form, but instead of holding a fan to hide her face, she held a knife before her. She was very pretty. He gave a great start of surprise and asked the meaning of the knife that she held. She ordered her nurse to reply, who said, "Even though I am an obscure country woman, I do not forget that I am born of the gentry, and though your excellency is a high minister of state, still to take me by force is an unheard of dishonor. If you take me as your real and true wife, I'll serve you with all my heart. But if you are determined to take me as a concubine, I shall die now by this blade. For that reason I hold it. My life rests on one word from your excellency. Speak it, please, before I decide." The governor, though a man who observed no ceremony and never tolerated a question, when he saw how beautiful and how determined this maiden was, fell a victim to her at once and said, "If you decide, then of course I'll make you my real wife." Her answer was, "If you truly mean it, then please withdraw and write out the certificate. Send the gifts. Provide the goose. Dress in the proper way. Come and let us go through the required ceremony. Drink the pledge glass and wed." The governor did as she suggested, carried out the forms to the letter, and they were married. She was not only a very pretty woman, but upright and true of soul, a rare person indeed. The governor took her home, loved her, and held her dear. He had, however, a real wife before, and concubines, but he set them all aside and fixed his affections on this one only. She remonstrated with him over his wrongs and unrighteous acts, and he listened and made improvement. The world took note of it, and praised her as a true and wonderful woman. She counted herself the real wife, but the first wife treated her as a concubine, and all the relatives said likewise that she could never be considered a real wife. At that time, Seijo, frequently in the dress of a commoner, used to visit Han's house. Han entertained him royally with refreshments which the deputy's daughter used to bring and offer before him. He called her his little sister. On a certain day, King Seijo, as he was accustomed, came to the house, and while he was drinking, he suddenly saw the woman fall on her face before him. The king, in surprise, inquired as to what she could possibly mean by such an act. She then told all the story of her being taken by force and brought to Seoul. She wept while she said, "Though I am from a far distant part of the country, I am of the gentry by ancestry, and my husband took me with all the required ceremonies of a wife, so I ought not to be counted as a concubine, but there is no law in this land by which a second real wife may be taken after a first real wife exists, so they call me a concubine, a matter of deepest disgrace. Please, your majesty, take pity on me and decide my case." The king laughed and said, "This is a simple matter to settle. Why should my little sister make so great an affair of it and bow before me? I will decide your case at once. Come." He then wrote out with his own hand a document making her a real wife, and her children eligible for the highest office. He wrote it, signed it, stamped it, and gave it to her. From that time on, she was known as a real wife, in rank and standing equal to the first one. No further word was ever slightly spoken, and her children shared in the affairs of state. I don't know what to think of that story. It, I mean, it's obviously, in retrospect, the daughter had a plan all this time, but it's also such a Union 20 smart girl. She is smart. She's very smart. It just, I don't know. It just feels like a very odd story. Very, very odd story. I mean, that whole speech. I'm guessing she just put the speech on to convince her father to let her get married. But at the same time, it's such a very strange speech. But I suppose this is a cultural thing, and I shouldn't dig too deep into it. Let's see. Okay. This one, let's try this one. This one should be interesting. This story is entitled 10,000 Devils. So a little bit of K-pop Demon Hunter then. A certain Prince Han of Chunchuan province had a distant relative who was an uncouth countryman living in extreme poverty. This relative came to visit him from time to time. Han pitied his cold and hungry condition, gave him clothes to wear and shared his food, urging him to stay and to prolong his visit often into several months. He felt sorry for him, but disliked his uncouthness and stupidity. Very, that's very harsh. On one of these visits, the poor relation suddenly announced his intention to return home, although the New Year's season was just at hand. Han urged him to remain, saying, "It would be better for you to be comfortably housed in my home, eating cake and soup and enjoying quiet sleep, rather than riding through wind and weather at this season of the year." He said at first that he would have to go, until his host so insistently urged on him to stay that at last he yielded and gave consent. At New Year's Eve, he remarked to Prince Han, I am possessor of a particular kind of magic, by which I have under my control all manner of evil genii, and New Year's the season at which I call them up, run over their names, and inspect them. If I did not do so, if I did not do so, I should lose control altogether, and there would follow no end of trouble among mortals. It is a matter of no small moment, and that is why I wish to go. Since, however, you have detained me, I shall have to call them up in your Excellency's house and look them over. I hope you will not object. Han was greatly astonished and alarmed, but gave his consent. The poor relation went on to say further, this is an extremely important matter, and I would like to have for it your central guest hall. Han consented to this also, so that night they washed the floors and scored them clean. The relation also sat himself with all dignity facing the south, while Prince Han took up his station on the outside, prepared to spy. Excuse me. Excuse me. Soon he saw a startling variety of demons crushing in at the door, horrible in appearance and awesome of manner. They lined up one after another, and still another and another, till they filled the entire court, each bowing as he came before the master, who at this point drew out a book, opened it before him, and began calling off the names. Demon guards who stood by the threshold repeated the call and checked off the names just as they do in a government yamen. From the second watch it went on till the 5th of the morning. Han remarked, it was indeed no lie when he told me 10,000 devils. One latecomer arrived after the marking was over, and still another came climbing over the wall. The man ordered them to be arrested and inquiry made of them under the paddle. The late arrival said, I really have had a hard time of it I really have had a hard time of late to live, and so was obliged, in order to find anything, to inject smallpox into the home of a scholar who lives in Yonnam. It is a long way off, and so I have arrived too late for the roll call. A serious fault indeed, I confess. The one who climbed the wall said, I too have known want and hunger, and so had to insert a little typhus into the family of a gentleman who lives in Gyeonggi. But hearing that roll call was due, I came in haste, fearing lest I should arrive too late, and so climbed the wall, which was indeed a sin. The man then, in a loud voice, rated them soundly, saying, These devils have disobeyed my orders, caused disease, and sinned grievously. Worse than everything, they have climbed the wall of a high official's house. He ordered 100 blows to be given them with the paddle, the kangu to be put on, and to have them locked fast in prison. Then calling the others to him, he said, Do not spread disease, do you understand? 3 times he ordered it, and 5 times he repeated it. Then they were all dismissed. The crowd of devils lined off before him, taking their departure and crushing out through the gate with no end of noise and confusion. After a long time, they had all disappeared. Prince Han, looking on during this time, saw the man now seated alone in the hall. It was quiet, and all had vanished. The cocks crowed, and morning came. Han was astonished above measure, and asked as to the law that governed such work as this. The poor relation said in reply, When I was young, I studied in a monastery in the mountains. In that monastery was an old priest who had a most peculiar countenance. A man feeble and ready to die, he seemed. All the priests made sport of him and treated him with contempt. I alone had pity on his age, and often gave him of my food, and always treated him kindly. One evening, when the moon was bright, the old priest said to me, "There's a cave behind this monastery from which a beautiful view may be had. Will you not come with me and share it?" I went with him, and when we crossed the ridge of the hills into the stillness of the night, he drew a book from his breast and gave it to me, saying, "I, who am old and ready to die, have here a great secret, which I have long wished to pass on to someone worthy. I have travelled over the wide length of Korea, and have never found the man till now I meet you, and my heart is satisfied. So please receive it." I opened the book and found it a catalogue list of devils with magic writing interspersed, and an explanation of the laws that govern the spirit world. The old priest wrote out one magic recipe, and having set fire to it, countless devils at once assembled, at which I was greatly alarmed. He then sat with me and called over the names one after the other, and said to the devils, "I am an old man now, am going away, and so am about to put you under the care of this young man. Obey him, and all will be well." I already had the book, and so called them to me, read out the new orders, and dismissed them. The old priest and I returned to the temple and went to sleep. I awoke early next morning and went to call on him, but he was gone. Thus I came into possession of the magic art, and have possessed it for a score of years or more. What the world knows nothing of, I have thus made known to your Excellency." Han was astonished beyond measure, and asked, "May I not also come into possession of this wonderful gift?" The man replied, "Your Excellency has great ability, and can do wonderful things, but the possessor of this craft must be one poor and despised, and of no account. For you, a minister, it would never do." The next day he left suddenly, and returned no more. Hans sent a servant with a message to him. The servant with great difficulty at last found him alone among 1,000 mountain peaks, living in a little straw hut no bigger than a cockle shell. No neighbors were there, nor anyone beside. He called him, but he refused to come. He sent another messenger to invite him, but he had moved away, and no trace of him was left. Prince Han's children had heard this story from himself, and I, the writer, received it from them. Ooh. Reminds me very similar to the story of King Solomon and the demons he was able to summon. I suppose, having their names gives you power over said demons in a similar case to this. See if I got one more story. I think I can do two more. Amazing. So we'll do two more stories, my dear scholars. The Vision of the Holy Man. Teacher Tojun was once upon a time a merchant, and in his merchandising went as far as the East Sea. One night he slept in a fishing village on the shore. At that time another stranger called who was said to be an Ayin, or holy man. The three met and talked till late at night. The master of the house, the holy man, and Tojon. It was very clear and beautifully calm. The holy man looked for a time out over the expanse of water, then suddenly gave a great start of terror, and said, "An awful thing is about to happen." His companions, alarmed at his manner, asked what he meant. He replied, "In 2 hours or so there will be a tidal wave that will engulf this whole village, utterly destroying everything. If you do not make haste to escape, all will be as fish in a net." Tojon, being something of an astrologer himself, thought first to solve the mystery of this, but could arrive at no explanation. The owner of the house would not believe it, and refused to prepare for escape. The holy man said, however, "Even though you do not believe what I say, let us go for a little up the face of the rear mountain. If my words fail, we can only come down again, and no one will be the worse for it. If you still do not wish to trust me, leave your goods and furniture just as they are, and let the people come away." Tojon was greatly interested, though he could not understand it. The master, too, could no longer refuse his proposal, so he took his family and a few light things and followed the holy man up the hill. He had them ascend to the very top, "in order," said he, "to escape." Tojon did not go to the top, but seated himself about halfway up. He asked the holy man if he would not be safe enough there. The holy man replied, "Others would never escape if they remained where you are, but you will simply get a fright and live through it." When cockcrow came, sure enough the sea suddenly lifted its face, overflowed its banks, and the waves came rolling up to the heavens, climbing the mountain sides till they touched the feet of Tojon. The whole town on the seashore was engulfed. When daylight came, the waters receded. Tojon bowed to the holy man, and asked that he might become his disciple. The holy man, however, disclaimed any knowledge, saying that he had simply known it by accident. He was a man who did not speak of his own attainments. Tojon asked for his place of residence, which he indicated as nearby, and then left. He went to seek him on the following day, but the house was vacant, and there was no one there. Spooky. Interesting. Excuse me. So we'll do one final story. In fact, we will kind of bookmark this stream with a story similar to our first story for the night. A story entitled The Wild Cat Woman. The former magistrate of Jeju Island, Kim Suik, I hope I pronounced that right, lived inside of the south gate of Seoul. When he was young, it was his habit to study Chinese daily until late at night. Once, when feeling hungry, he called for his wife to bring him something to eat. The wife replied, "We have nothing in the house except 7 or 8 chestnuts. Shall I roast these and bring them to you?" Kim replied, "Good, bring them." The servants were asleep, and there was no one on hand to answer a call, so the wife went to the kitchen, made a fire, and cooked them herself. Kim waited, meanwhile, for her to come. After a little while, she brought them in a handbasket, cooked and ready and ready served for him. Kim ate and enjoyed them much. Meanwhile, she sat before his desk and waited. Suddenly, the door opened, and another person entered. Kim raised his eyes to see, and there was the exact duplicate of his wife, with a basket in her hand and roasted chestnuts. As he looked at both of them beneath the light, the two women were perfect facsimiles of each other. The two also looked back and forth in alarm, saying, "What is this that's happening? Who are you?" Kim once again received the roasted nuts, laid them down, and then took firm hold of each woman, the first one by the right hand and the second by the left, holding fast till the break of day. At last the cocks crew, and the east began to lighten. The one whose right hand he held said, "Why do you hold me so? It hurts. Let me go." She shook and tugged, but Kim held all the tighter. In a little, after struggling, she fell to the floor and suddenly changed into a wildcat. Kim, in fear and surprise, let her go, and she made her escape through the door. What a pity that he did not make the beast fast for good and all. Interesting, huh? Another woman who was an animal in disguise. In fact, the note by the writer points out that while they have a very good explanation of foxes changing shape and into women, they have no explanation of how the wildcat did it. They know, after all, that a fox can carry a magic charm by which they do this magic, but how did the wildcat do it? That's interesting. They don't know it. And we will end our reading there, my dear scholars. Oh my goodness, there were some fairly good stories in there. I actually I quite enjoyed the boxed up governor, I think, as my personal favorite. That one was really, really funny. Yulian 20, those darn women. Oh, I'm not gonna repeat that because I do not want that taken out of context, Yulian 20. I do not need that trouble. But yes, yeah, there were some interesting stories there. And I really, maybe sometime I'll return and do a second stream of these stories. There's plenty of them left over that I didn't touch. So next week, if all goes according to plan and everything turns out okay, Monday we'll be returning to Horizon Zero Dawn. We are just at the cusp of doing one of the harder, apparently most difficult parts of the game. So we'll see how that goes. And then next Thursday, we'll be journeying straight into the world of a type of fiction I haven't covered yet in our reading streams. We're going to be reading a book from the days of pulp magazines. Yeah, I have never read any stories from pulp magazines, and this book is entitled "The Moon Pool." And apparently, some people believe it was an inspiration for the Call of Cthulhu. So this should be interesting. It's a very different type of fiction and one that I haven't yet explored. So for now, let's see who we can raid tonight. Unit 20 love pulp type stories. Oh, nice. Who is there? Um, let's raid Cedar Martin. Uh, he is reading Sherlock Holmes: The Hound of the Baskervilles. That seems like it'd be fun. So then, my dear scholars, I say unto you, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, till we meet each other again to study. Take care, and I shall see you next time. Till then, farewell and bye-bye.